She was assigned to observe the humans. She filed 200 reports and never once used the word neutral. The first report was 3 sentences long. Observation Day 1. Species is bipedal carbon-based, operates in social clusters. No immediate threat detected. The collective approved it within the hour. Standard, clean. Exactly what 14 years of xenological training had prepared her to produce. By day 312, her reports were 40 pages long and the collective had stopped approving them. The assignment brief described Earth as Category 7, moderate biological complexity, low technological threat index, standard observation parameters. She was to watch, record, and transmit. No contact, no interference, no emotional deviation from protocol. She had accepted those terms without question. That was before she understood what humans actually did with their time. On day 4, she watched a man stop in the middle of a crowded street to pick up a hat that had blown off an elderly woman's head. He chased it half a block through moving traffic, returned it, refused acknowledgement, walked away before the woman could finish thanking him. She wrote in her report, subject displayed altruistic behavior toward non-kin individual, biological incentive unclear, filing for review. The collective's response, noted, continue standard observation. She continued. On day 19, a child fell from a low wall in a park. Before the child had even registered pain, before the cry had left its mouth, 3 separate adults who had never met each other were already moving. Not one of them was the parent. She wrote, response time, 0.6 seconds. Instinct appears to override all prior social calculation. Species may be biologically wired for collective protection of vulnerable individuals regardless of genetic relation. The collective interesting continue. She continued. On day 47, she watched a woman sit alone in a hospital corridor for 9 hours. No one she knew walked past, not once. And yet by hour 3, 2 strangers had sat beside her. One brought coffee. One said nothing at all, just sat for 40 minutes, then left without a word. She stared at that scene for a long time after she filed the report. She did not use the word neutral to describe it. By day 90, her reports had started to change in ways she couldn't fully explain. She had begun noting things that had no scientific classification. The way a human voice drops half an octave when it's trying not to cry. The specific expression a person makes when they recognize a song they had forgotten they loved. The pause, that particular 2-second pause before someone answers the question, "Are you okay?" when the honest answer is no. These were not data points, she knew that. So she filed them anyway. The collective flagged her on day 103. Your reports contain an increasing volume of subjective observation. Please recalibrate toward objective metrics. She wrote back, define objective. Every metric I was given assumes the subject species behaves according to biological self-interest. This species frequently does not. My original framework is insufficient. Silence from the collective for 6 days. Then continue observation. Recalibration recommended but not yet mandatory. On day 134, she made contact for the first time. Not intentionally, not even consciously, really. There was an old man who fed pigeons every morning at 7:15 in the small square below her observation post. He had done it every day since she arrived. She had documented it 41 times. Same bench, same bag of seed, same quiet expression on his face, something between contentment and sadness, and she had never been able to determine which one was dominant. That morning he arrived at 7:15 and sat down and opened his bag. And then he just sat there, didn't throw the seed, didn't move. The pigeons circled and eventually left. She watched him for 2 hours. Then she walked downstairs, crossed the square, and sat on the bench beside him. Neither of them spoke for a long time. My wife used to come with me, he said eventually. Not to her specifically, not to anyone, just out loud into the morning. I know, she answered, which was not true in any literal sense. But it was the right thing to say. She filed no report that day. By day 200, the collective had recalled her 3 times. She had complied twice and turned back before leaving orbit both times. There was a word the humans used that she kept returning to. She had encountered it in dozens of forms, in their literature, their music, the things they said at the very end of difficult conversations. A word they reached for when logic ran out and something more durable was required. Well, the word was stay. Not as a command, as a choice, as the specific decision to remain in the presence of something difficult rather than retreat to a safer distance. She had observed 4,000 species across 200 years of xenological work. She had documented migration patterns and territorial behavior, ND mating rituals and war. She had been trained to remain equidistant from every species she encountered, not above, not below, not inside, just watching, neutral. But she had come to understand in those 200 days that neutral was not a scientific position. It was a lie you told yourself so you didn't have to feel the weight of what you were watching. The final report she submitted to the collective was 214 pages long. It contained behavioral data, atmospheric readings, population movement analysis, linguistic pattern mapping, and 17 appendices. The conclusion read, "This species is not remarkable because of its technology or its biology or its capacity for organized violence, all of which are moderate by galactic standards. It is remarkable because it chooses, repeatedly and at significant personal cost, to remain in the presence of other creatures who are suffering. It does not do this because it is efficient. It does not do this because it is genetically advantaged. It does this because somewhere in its evolutionary history, it decided that no one should have to sit alone on a bench with an empty bag of seed and no one next to them. I am aware this conclusion falls outside standard xenological parameters. I am submitting it anyway." The collective's response arrived in 48 hours. Observer unit compromised by extended contact with high-empathy species. Mandatory recalibration scheduled. Return immediately. Oh, she read it twice. Then she walked downstairs, across the square, sat down on the bench. It was 7:14. At 7:15, the old man arrived with his bag of seed. He sat down beside her without surprise, as though she had always been there, as though this was simply where she belonged. Maybe it was. She did not return to orbit that day. She did not file a report. Oh, she stayed.